Otherwise, it's just
Whoa.
Everybody, welcome to episode 216 of Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings finally have a home. Yep, Mike, otherwise, it's just F.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was fun. I mean, we did that in the last episode to talk about Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider should be winning the Calder because we were having such a great time. We got to watch Lucas get an overtime winner. And then, Mike, as predicted, 2 games gave us the exact result we thought we were going to get. And the entire world is up in arms. Mike, grab your gun. Grab your pitchfork. Get your torch. Head on over to Jeff Blashill's house and Steve Yzerman's house because we got the exact results we expected. Let's get them. All right.
Oh, I thought we were going to arm Jeff to protect himself from morons on Twitter. Jeff, here's your torch and your pitchfork. Good luck.
Yeah, it was fun to be on Twitter because all I caught was the third period and all I saw was a 1-0 game.
Wait a minute. So an undermanned Red Wings team got shellacked by 2 of the best teams in the league. Unbelievable, Blashill. Fired. Makes tons of sense to me.
I don't want to push back too much because we know like Jeff is again, how many times have we said it on the show? Jeff is not the guy to take this team into the playoffs and win a Stanley Cup. We all know that. But when your team, Mike, we said, all right, we're playing back to back. We're playing one of the most, I don't know. How do you put it? I mean, they're just stacked. We said 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. We can't compete at all when we jump down to lines 2, 3, and 4. Like we can maybe keep up with line 1 to line 1, and we still that didn't happen last night. And then they just keep throwing out these super talented forward lines at you. So yeah, 6-2 did happen. It was expected. Cut it out, you doofuses, with getting so angry about. I mean, you're not supposed to be happy about it. I get it. But we all predicted it. We all thought it was going to be a blowout. So what are we doing? Come on.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Why are we getting so angry?
Yeah, it's a well polished machine, ready to win the Stanley Cup. Not have a pretty good showing and win a round or 2 in the playoffs. Like they're trying to win the Stanley Cup this season, and the Red Wings are just trying to 500 it a little bit, and kind of figure it out as another. Almost a third of their roster is going to leave in unrestricted free agency next year. So this, there's a lot of guys who aren't even going to be here. And I think they're got to set up in a way that, this is not the foundation of, a winning Red Wing team. So we kind of got what we expected.
Right.
I think we knew this was going to be maybe the worst stretch for this season. With the Toronto games, with the Tampa games, the Florida games. Somehow we squeaked a couple out against, the Rangers and Carolina, which, of those teams, I think those are, maybe measuring sticks, things that might be a little bit easier for us to catch as opposed to, the buzzsaw that is in Tampa or the other frying pan that's also in Florida. So, we jumped from one into the other on a back-to-back on the road, and I think we got what we expected.
Here's what they're rolling out, Mike. They have like a point per game guy going all the way down to the third line. say, even on the defensive side, I mean, Aaron is going to be one of your top defensemen in the league. So what I pulled up for everybody on the podcast, I just pulled up their depth chart and then, points for each player. And it's just, I mean, it was gonna hurt. I mean, when you're throwing Sam Reinhart with 52 points in 52 games, and clearly, some of these points are inflated because they've had an absolute dynamite power play. So it's just one of those things. Like when you are playing 5-on-5, it's not going to go well. But also special teams, just an absolute disaster for the Wings this season. Going pretty good for Florida. So yeah, I hate to do it, but you got to bring up right, like it all went according to plan, right? We're bringing up the Joker from the Dark Knight. It's kind of relevant, right? Because everybody likes
not
Batman,
anymore. There's actually
apparently
a new Batman movie that came out.
I was going to use that to make it relevant. All right, Tristan pointing out the guys are actually played well last night. Hey, you know what, Mike? Broken clock. That's right, twice a day.
You know what? Let's re-up. Give me 5 more years of that, baby.
Five more years of DeKeyser. Yeah, he threw a puck that Fabry bounced in off the net. I mean,
DeKeyser's agent made DVDs, Blu-rays, and TikToks of last night's game with the contract negotiations coming up.
Yeah. Tristan also throwing. Tristan, what's going on, my man? Tristan also throwing out there. Hronek disappointed me a lot this year. Yeah, I mean it's funny. Like that might have been a spot where you could have like crossed something off and said, "All right, we've got a Hronek. There's a spot in the lineup. We've got all set. It's not going great. All right, but Mike, today we don't need to go 2 hours. Because this is, I think a lot of people want to be alone.
You don't want to bang your head into the wall, showing all the ineptitude from the past 2 games, man.
Yeah, so we don't want to torture anybody and just keep going on and on about this game. Because again, went according to plan, in our opinion. But yeah, it was a couple of games that caused Twitter to again
overreact.
Oh, all right. I was just gonna say, men.
Overreact with pessimism, and I mean, there's no point in firing Blashill. But I mean, he went to the poker table with like a 2 of hearts and like a 4 of spades. So there wasn't a lot he was going to be able to do with that hand. So I don't know what we really thought. There's nothing he could do. I don't really know how to lay this responsibility on him. Florida's playing for blood,
and I'd also caution everybody too you want to fire Jeff. I don't think Steve is one to rush a coaching hire to finish out the season. So, right, like you could find somebody who could just find some like stable ground and just kind of get us through to the end of April. But more than likely, Mike, it's going to be like one of these 2 guys, right? Doug Oda.
Are you sure you have them in the right order with the names? Because
it's just Baldy 1 and Baldy 2.
And Blash is kind of bald right now, so it's really
he's been bald forever. He's super bald. There.
And also, if you really want to stick it to Blashill, you don't want to fire him. You want him to stick around for the rest of this season because it's probably going to be more of the same.
Right.
You don't want to reward him and give him a bus ride home.
And it is kind of funny too. I remember. I mean, like we're dealing with the same problems, I feel like, with the power play when Bilesma was holding it, and now Tungay's power play isn't much better. But everybody kept saying like, oh, well, at least we got Bilesma that can take over for Jeff. Why? Like, it's not like they have the one assignment and it's not going well. So
what I'm curious to see are the think pieces that get written in a couple of weeks when the power play gets a little warmer. I won't say like hot, but it'll be like room temperature at gazpacho. Like, wow, Tangay's plays are really working. No, it's just that Verona came back. Did he suddenly become hot as a power play specialist coach, or is it the Verona factor?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you just said that because that's probably the best point. It's going to make the biggest difference for this team. I mean, we just went, Mike. We're still a 500 team. We've gone more than half the season without arguably our. I mean, right? Can we say like our best winger? I mean, it's not like there would have been an argument going in. Like Tyler Bertuzzi has had a great season, obviously. Right, like we would have gone into this season and said
our most skilled wing goal scorer.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I think I added enough caveats that you can't really debate. You're like, wait, Bertuzzi? Oh, well, okay. He's still a better, power wing, but
I was called a Blashill on Twitter last night. But again,
you're on the Blash payroll, huh?
I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't think I can say it enough that this isn't about keeping Blashill as your coach forever. This is just about how silly a decision it is to fire your coach in March when your team was on the way to the bottom anyway. I don't know.
This isn't like a stacked underperforming Red Wings team. This is about a 500 roster playing about 500 hockey. So he's doing exactly what he should be doing. It's not like firing Blashill is going to rejuvenate the team and, the boys will get all fired up and just start, hamming them out, 6-2 the other way. It's not the case. We don't have the defensive core. We only have like 2 scoring lines. Just not.
So let's back up a little bit because we wanted this episode to be what's Steve Yzerman's next big move and kind of get everybody thinking positive again. What we're kind of doing right now is, Blash could be fired today. He could be fired tomorrow morning. It could happen. I'm just saying, maybe we could even make the argument that that's not a big move because it's going to happen eventually and we all see it coming. So you'd really have to hope for like the next big signing, right? Like that's the next big move. So Steve bringing in a big name coach. And I know a lot of people are getting excited. I was looking at old articles, it's funny. It was a top 3 list of coaches to bring in. 2 of them already have jobs. One's in Vancouver. The other's in New York. But then the third name on the list was Igor Larionov. And this was written 2 years ago, I think, or maybe a year ago. And now there's a new article that came out and it was kind of the same game. 2 guys who already have jobs. And then the third name on the list was Sergei Fedorov.
Matt, we rescued him from Russia before. We could do it again.
We got Keith Gave on the phone. Keith, we need you over in Russia. We need you to go save Sergei Fedorov again. What? What's he doing over there this time? All right.
I heard things are a little tense over there right now. Is it a priority to get Fedorov out of there? And
yeah, that might not work out. All right. So, anyhoozles, I do think there's a more grand plan than to just fire Jeff on March 6th. And then scramble to figure it out by the end of the season. So to that point, guys, again, let's cross that one off the list. Next big move for Steve Yzerman, not a coach. However, we've established a lot here. Tristan threw out there, trade deadline, off season, can't come quick enough. Mike, let's talk about that for a sec. Silver's right there. I concur. I hope we have opportunities this trade deadline. Let's see what else. Does anything else come up that agreed with those sentiments? Here's Joel. Joel says, I really want the Wings to shed players, tank the rest of the season. Future's bright. This is our last opportunity to get a top pick. Find a center.
It certainly feels that way.
Eric helping us move on to Blashill is staying. All right. Thanks, Eric. We're all on board, right? We're good. End of the season. We don't have to can I just say too, I don't think in 2 months anybody's going to come in and fix Zadina. You know what I mean? So let's just get to this end of the season. I think as far as we know, Blashill's year by year. And if there's the right coaching opportunity.
He's like LeBron James,
Yeah. So I think on this show, with who's watching right now, we're all in agreement. Jeff getting fired is not the next big move. So, Mike, to Tristan's point, trade deadline, offseason can't come soon enough. Mike, do we have, is the next big move a trade? So we talked about it. Tristan brought up a great candidate for us to maybe get some good value, especially with, I think he's got, 100 points now in his career? Or he's definitely over that because that was a little bit ago.
He's
making 4 point.
Yeah, for the trade deadline, let's just say this real quick. We will not be buyers That narrative is over.
You think?
Yzerman's like, no way am I giving up draft picks for anybody. I'm not giving up draft picks for Hurdle the Turtle. I'm sorry, that is done. No.
Hey, you know what? I will say, Mike, I am aware of one person on this planet that was still calling for it.
I was.
Yeah.
I was like, very excited for Hurdle the Turtle. I can't stop saying that. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely not going to be buyers. And I think the scariest thing is we want to be sellers. Do we have anybody we can really sell and get value for? I think that's the scariest part of where this season has gone. Because ideally you want to get something back, and the only guys who are really going to fetch a real return, we're not trading Lucas, obviously. We're not trading Seider. We're not trading Larkin. At this point, I'd be shocked if we traded Bertuzzi. So, I mean, is Nick Leddy really going to get a return? As far as guys that are, with, no more time left on their deals? We're not getting a second round pick for him. I'll tell you that right now.
The only thing we have going for us in regards to the Nick Leddy thing is going to be dependent on what the market looks like, how many teams want a veteran defenseman, how many teams need a left side defenseman, how many teams need a guy who has performed well in the playoffs in the past. But once that number dwindles, you either have to move Nick now because there's still enough teams that need a defenseman, and that's where you're kind of losing out.
No, but we need a defenseman.
Huh?
We need a defenseman.
Yeah. What are you saying? You want to keep Nick? Nick Leddy's gone at the end of the season, so I'm talking about moving him
for the rest of this season. It might get really bad. I don't know who's next in line after he's gone, but it looked pretty bleak this week, man. These past 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you look at. You have opportunities on the left side. I mean, Lashoff's probably the easiest one to call up because he at least has a ton of experience on the pro side.
I mean, you're probably looking at a 4th round pick?
Huh?
A 4th round pick?
Well, that's where I was going with this conversation. At the start of the season, there was a survey out for the fans that Jay Fresh ran, and I think he ran it again. And there's like 9% of fans think that Nick Leddy could fetch a 1st round pick. Now, they're stupid. They're morons, right? No way. But that number has been thrown out. That's kind of like in today's NHL because there's so many players to watch. And I 1000% believe there is like a group. I don't know. I think there is the possibility that depending on how many people need a defenseman, again, this was really convoluted, but just to kind of sum it up, depending on how many people need a Nick Leddy, if it worked out, I think because the conversation has started that he could fetch a 1st, I think where we're at right now is getting a 3rd. And if that team makes it to the conference finals, we get a 2nd. That's like, let's do a conditional pick, right? Let's go in that direction. We'll figure it out that way. Because that's your best bet.
I think that's really optimistic. I would almost say it would be a 4th and then a 3rd, depending on performance.
How about all right? Let's do 4th and a 2nd. Because if you're making it to the conference finals, it's like, come on, you're 1 step away from the cup. Give us a 2nd.
Listen, if this guy leads you to a Stanley Cup victory, you owe us a 1st. Or nothing. Let's make a real gamble on this trade, Matt. We'll take nothing. It's Stanley Cup or bust with Nick Leddy, Matt.
I don't know how you do that, but I think you're saying like a 7th round pick because
a conditional 1st round pick. That's what we're saying. If you win the Stanley Cup, but you have to take the Kaiser as well. No, it's not going to happen, man. I think you're going to be a little bit bummed at this trade deadline.
Well, you're
going to have to wait till the offseason.
That's fine. For Nick Leddy, I think is what you're saying, because there's also that opportunity to move Zadina. And Eric Johnson brings up, you saw that Yzerman was up in the owner's box for Florida and Ottawa game. And is the next big move, Mike, possibly I know this has been thrown out a lot, but Eric Brandstrom for Zadina. And I say for Zadina because we brought him up a minute ago. But possibility? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know.
All right. So I'll throw it this way.
Man, yeah,
you've got two guys that are basically like could have high end, and right now their production isn't super great. So I guess my question is, Mike, when we say Steve Yzerman's next big move, does that count to you as a next big move? We're basically throwing two guys that are on similar tracks right now, and we're just getting potentially a left side defenseman, which could fill, fills an obvious need for us, especially if it works out. And then Zadina, just, I mean, if you want to make the argument, we've developed him in the wrong direction, and see what Ottawa can do.
I would probably be stunned by that move. If only because the way Yzerman's been drafting this team, and when I say the word roller coaster, I don't mean up and down performance wise. I mean, you must be this tall to be a Detroit Red Wing draft prospect. And Brandstrom coming in at 5'9" is a little under what Yzerman's been doing defensively, and what it looks like he's been doing in the minors, and especially so far with the actual major league team, the way we're going to phrase it. So him being a little guy, kind of underperforming, I don't know if this is really the move for us.
I know what you're saying, but you do need to diversify.
That's going to be a no for me, Doug.
You got to diversify that talent, though.
Well, that's why we're diversifying with 6'4" guys and 6'8" guys. Just go even bigger.
So that's a no from you, Doug.
That's gonna be a no for me, Doug.
I'm gonna say also for me, not the next big move. I think it's going to shake social media, but I don't know if that's the big move, because that's not one where we're like, all right, now we're moving into playoff conversations, right? So we're I think Tristan was on board with us there too. I did have another one in here I wanted to throw at you. Joel threw trading Hronek. We just brought him up a second ago. I was a second away from actually saying his name, and then you took us in another direction. But Mike, how about we trade a full line? You get a D pairing. You get a Hronek and a Nick Leddy for a first round pick. No, I'm just.
I think that who says no would be the NHL in terms of a first rounder. I think they would be able to get a second rounder from somebody, though.
Do you think, with Hronek, who has established himself as a guy who can play a ton of minutes for your team, so he's playing in a bunch of different spots, that means you are getting a power play guy and a penalty kill guy, getting a guy that can play on your first pair, just hasn't had a lot of success. So those minutes can work out, but clearly I think the track of his career is going to be one of those two special teams aspects falling off and him falling down in minutes. But with that being said, if you collect a second round pick for Hronek, is that enough? Because once you get out of I'll remind everybody, once you get out of the top 10 in the first round, we're not talking for sure NHLers anymore. So if we're collecting a second for Hronek,
we're not talking for sure Grand Rapids Griffins anymore.
Exactly. Like we're talking, now we're gambling with Hronek, and we're saying that he's not good enough. He's still, what are we talking here? I had this up a second ago.
This is one of the league leaders in empty net goals. I don't know why we're so quick to dismiss Hronek here.
I would say still, and probably more like we want to get away from the word reasonable. Like we're getting further away from reasonable cap hit at $4.4 million, and probably just like can stomach the cap hit, like it doesn't kill us kind of feel for Hronek. $4.4 million. He's eating up 5.4% of the cap, but he's 24 years old, right? So
I think if you say goodbye to him, that's a scary prospect, because then you're going into next season with Seider.
That's true.
And hopefully Edmondson.
And you've got Lidstrom, who's had a couple of rough games in a row after we've been touting him pretty hard all season.
And Osterley,
it's been kind of rough.
He can barely make the healthy scratch. So
Yeah, it's a
I know
dangerous
that Hronek is
prospect, but
not he's not an all-star, but you gotta, as Yzerman is so famously put, you gotta ice a team. So I think he's worth more to us than punting on a gamble second-round pick. No,
can I say though, to
I don't
Joel's
see him
point,
moving. Yeah.
though, if that did happen, that would be a big Steve Yzerman move. That would be saying a lot about this team. Not good stuff, mind you, but that would be saying a lot about this team if Hronek was moved. It would mean we're probably a lot like Steve sees a team that is a lot further away from winning than maybe we give this team credit for. Mike, I'm gonna throw this out there. This is just for the conversation of what would be the next big move. And I think this would be a huge move because I think you fetch a lot. But Doc O, like for all the podcast listeners who can't read what he wrote, trade Vrana.
Well, I mean, that's certainly on the table. I don't think we have necessarily any. We have two untouchable players vying for Rookie of the Year this year. Vrana, not a untouchable player for the right, sweet offer, but that would really have to blow us away. I feel like at this point, that would include a first-round pick plus NHL player plus prospect. I would think.
Now, I'm pretty sure here with Doc's mention of taking an Arizona D-man, he's talking about Jacob Churchman, and he's been probably on the top of everybody's list since. You're talking about a guy who's got a $4.6 million cap hit and plays well above the talent level of Hronek. So you're talking about a very affordable contract for a guy that knows his position and plays it perfectly. And you've got that contract for 4 years. He's 23 right now. So his next big contract is probably going to be too big to stomach. But I'm going to say this. You have your left side defenseman of Churchman, and then you could, at that point, maybe make Hronek work a little bit better because now he's got a legit left side defenseman. And then you're bringing over for two other defensive pairings, possibly going Seider on one and Edmondson on another. Mike, that full six D-man lineup looks really good at that point. But I think you're giving up, and maybe it's worth it, but you're probably giving up a first-round pick too. I think Arizona's looking for a little bit more than Vrana. So I don't know if you can go 1-for-1 on that, to be completely honest. Maybe.
Man.
All right. I am trying to get through all these comments here, and there's like 10 comments rolling down. I don't know, Mike, if
throw
that's
a few in there
because
then we can kind of touch on.
Well, I got to read them. I was going to have you do some filibustering.
Yeah, I would be stunned if that move happened. And I know that this Red Wing team, if you look at the cap sheet, their next season going to be in a pretty scary spot. We really need some prospects to come up and also cider their way into the NHL because everybody's going to be a free agent outside of our boy Mo. I guess the only thing that would give me pause about whether or not this trade is actually on the table is we're not giving up draft picks. Yzerman's not going to do that. But are you closer to building out a top like 6 defensemen, or are you closer to getting a couple lines together up top? And it kind of feels like once you have Vrana, you have a couple lines. So I don't think we need to necessarily take another step back with that and then, keep playing boggle with, let's try Nemesnikov up there. Let's try Zadina in the top 6. We still have Fabry up there, and bless his heart, he did score in both of the Florida debacles. But, I think ideally, man, what a team we'd be if he was on the third line. I just don't think, based on the way our prospects are coming in, I don't know if we have a Vrana style guy waiting in the wings. We don't really have that replacement. Should he be traded like that? Where we do have the defensive prospects. We do have, the Haas's coming up, either next season or the year after. So I would be stunned if that move were to transpire, Matt. Because again, we don't have, I don't think we have the organizational goal scoring depth, but we are going to have the defensive prospects coming up.
Yeah, and I think some people might get excited at what you said, because we have seen some good performances this year. Cross Hannes, Carter Mazer, Robert Master Simone. They're all close to a point per game. I think who we're talking about there too, except for Cross, who's playing in the WHL. We're seeing a lot of good NCAA performances. So like those are fun. But you guys got to remember, like we're talking about 2 more steps up. We're talking about those performances have to also translate into the AHL, which you could make the argument which one you think is better. If you probably just goes in line with where you're a bigger fan, AHL or NCAA hockey, and then move it up to the pro level. So those are 2 big steps. I got to remind everybody for the NCAA guys that are playing pretty well. So I think you're right, Mike. That is a huge asset to lose, and one that we saw performing just under the abilities of Austin Matthews.
Now, if you're trading him,
let me say this: if you're playing just under Austin Matthews, but you have the cap hit of Vrana, right? Like you pay for Austin Matthews because he's going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation. We don't expect that necessarily for Vrana at any point. We could get lucky, but again, this is a more affordable first line asset, which I think is huge. They don't mean we can roll out a Florida Panthers lineup eventually.
Like piggyback on what you're saying. If you're really counting on these, a couple of those names you dropped, replacing Vrana, Matt, you're looking at like 2025. So that means you're looking at 2 more years of toilet while you're waiting for these guys to step up for 2 years and prove it at an NHL level. So I think that's a scary prospect, and that means that you really don't see the growth out of this team, and you're really buckling down.
So again, we could grade it. Would be a huge move, but probably more negative than positive.
That'd be a depressing move. I think.
Yeah, that would hurt.
Like, oh no, I guess we're really far behind.
But Tristan wants to remind us Wyatt Newpower still available.
Oh boy, here we go.
Here
comes the new power propaganda. Here it comes.
Nothing, not to be sour on new power, but again, that's an option for us to fill out the lineup. But that's more of the ice a team conversation, Mike. If we're going to be moving some of these guys, we have a new power that can fill in. We have a new power that can fill in, but not necessarily a new power.
Well done.
All right.
I really like that.
Mike, last name for trade deadline, Daco Fabry.
You want to trade the Florida killer? Are you sure you want to give up? Huh?
Yeah, he really absolutely would not have been a close game in Tampa without Fabry knocking in that empty net goal. Seider raced through end to end to get a shot on that. It squeaks through.
Few guys can ride the coattails of upper echelon talent like Robbie Fabry.
Also, Danny DeKeyser bouncing one off Fabry for him to score a goal. So that's, again, Tristan's all about it. Get rid of Fabs.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's not about let's get rid of him. What are we getting for him?
I think,
I still feel like he has more value for us.
To Tristan's point, though, I mean, like, if we're trying to do something exciting, what's the next big move? Like, that's the question we're answering. Like, that's a big move where you can fetch something back.
But I don't think Yzerman sees him as the worst defensive forward on the squad, because otherwise they wouldn't have given him that contract they just gave him, right? So I don't know what kind of message that sends as a general manager acquiring talent to be like, hey, I'm going to give you a big old contract and then get the F out of my office. It's a very mixed message there. So another spot where I would be pretty shocked if you re-sign a guy like that and then move him.
Don't forget those bad penalties too. Good point, Tristan. All right. So Mike,
Yzerman doesn't care about any of that. He doesn't care about the bad defense. He doesn't care about the bad penalties. Get this man a piece of paper and some ink. I want him on our team.
Jesus.
None of those things matter.
All right. So I think ultimately what we're saying is there's some guys who are going to move at the trade deadline And as hardcore Red Wings fans, of course, we can all be excited to get some draft picks. And also, the guys coming up from Grand Rapids, very exciting to talk about at that time. I can't wait to see some of them, right? Not the big move. So we're saying, Mike, maybe free agency. Do you think we're making that big? Are we making a big stink in free agency?
I mean, we better.
Oh boy, better. That is okay. Now that is a very choice word.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of cap space, so hopefully you can actually use it. And this is still an attractive destination because, hey, if you play defense, come on down.
Well, we did. I mean, we did play the game earlier in the season of, are these guys actually going to come over? And we tried to wait, like, is Hurdle going to want to actually sign with Detroit? Do we have to hope that the Yzerplan is enticing enough? And I honestly, I can't sit here and tell you right now that it is. And then, of course, I think everybody, ever since we came out with our episode, everybody's jumped on the Hampus Lindholm train, and we're all really excited to give that one a shot as well. To kind of, I mean, that process for us, right? Like that's one. We don't expect him to be the most expensive defenseman to come out of this year's crop. That's a big crop.
It's a big crop. He's got a goose suit on. Yeah.
Defensive free agents. But it's still going to be a significant hit. But to the extent, too, that we're getting some left side defensemen. And we're trying to also, I think a part of this, too, is we're trying to answer this question of, like, are we making a big enough move to upgrade this team into playoff conversation piece next year? Where, I think a lot of people shied away because we got shellacked pretty hard, a few times in the last couple of months, let alone the last week. We get shellacked pretty hard. People are taking a step back. We're, trying to say the playoffs are going to be tough to come by. I still say in today's NHL, I think playoffs are very easy to come by. I think it's being a Stanley Cup contender that's harder to come by. But any hoozles, Mike, clearly, big move can come. We can pick up a center. We can pick up a left side defenseman. They can make a huge difference. I'm going to put my finger on free agency. And we have one more to discuss of what that next big move would be. But I'm going to put my finger. That's our next big move.
I think the idea of a trade is still very tough for me. I didn't realize. I mean, like, we talk about the being a 500 team, right? But I think in the start of the season, we were like, hey, at home, we're not so bad. But now the home numbers, like the win-loss record, is starting to catch back up to the away record. So as we kind of tumble down the standings again, I didn't realize what a rude awakening we were in for when we played against teams that really care, that have talent, and they wipe the floor with us. It's just a bloodbath. Offensively, they score a ton of goals. Defensively, we're just Swiss cheese. So I'm a little frightened, Matt. So I don't see us. I don't know if I see Yzerman making another second-round pick for a 30-year-old defenseman trade. They must make a splash in free agency. They must. You have the cap space to do it. You better get, God, every Detroit legend better be out there pimping out and advocating about how fun it is to be in Detroit. Because we desperately need this to work out. Because I don't think we really want to trade any of our assets. We really need to hoard every possible prospect that we have. I think we have to absolutely have to hit home runs with all this money coming off the books. That is imperative to this team's future. Otherwise, shit. If we fail on free agency, Matt, then yeah, you probably do have to trade people like Hronek. Because that is going to be a much longer rebuild if you don't make a splash.
I don't know if that necessarily lines up in my head. If you don't get a huge asset at free agency, I think it just means this next season we don't have to get too excited about. There's still going to be opportunities to move some pieces. Like like if we're saying like this is our last big shot at picking up a major asset in the draft, and then we want to take a step forward into playoff conversation, well, now you've got a ton of draft assets that maybe you can move to get a more valuable piece. And we'll have the cap too. Like it won't be, we'll be one of those teams where that won't be an issue. Even if we sign a major free agent. So how do I want to put this? I think we'll be fine if a big free agent splash doesn't happen. I'm just saying I think that's the next big space for one. But finally, and you guys could vote too. The last option is if that doesn't happen, Mike, to your point, because this would be your pick if you thought we weren't going to make a huge splash in free agency, or if Detroit didn't look like the best place to land right now. Of course, if you're signing a long contract, and we know like there's a guy out there named Klingberg who's looking for a super long contract, he might know that if he signed with Detroit, he'll be here long enough for it to work out. But barring that, Mike, I think this is the guarantee. The next big move for the Yzerplan is just bring over Edvinsson and Soderblom. Now, what is that? That means a lot if that is our next big move. I will be honest. That doesn't mean that's where the next time we get to be excited about this roster. But
man,
it either means we couldn't get the job done in free agency. We don't have good enough assets for the rest of the NHL to have moved any of our guys to be exciting. Or we've made a decision as an organization that we need to see more from these prospects before we're willing to spend some dough, which means our timeline could be way off, which is scary.
That's another scary prospect, man. Because I think we at the start of this season we were kind of like tickled, like, hey, maybe Lucas and Mo will make the squad. Maybe they'll really impress us in tryouts. And now, what are we 50-ish, 60 games into this season? And by God, where the fuck would we be without those two guys? Easily two of our best players.
Oh my God. Could you imagine this season if they made the choice to put Lucas in Grand Rapids and we had just been playing this? Oh my God. This, by the way, for anybody watching on YouTube, sorry for podcast listeners, brought up, this is every NHL player, Mike, every NHL forward. Sorry. And how far away we are from just like being in more of the competitive level. So what we're showing here is a graph of expected goals for and expected goals against. And most of our boys are either in low event, which is, means you're stopping chances. You're not getting chances. You're also stopping them. I like how this graph is put together. The third quadrant is down bad. Oh, wait, no, is that the fourth quadrant? How does that go? It's first quadrant, top left. Does it go clockwise? Does anybody remember math class? Anyway.
I don't remember.
Most of our guys are found in the down bad section, which means you don't get a lot of chances and you give up a ton, including our boys. You've got Fabry in there. You've got Zadina, Suter.
Veritable who's who of Red Wings here.
Kind of sad. Veleno is looking to be our worst forward, which kind of breaks my heart a little bit on this graph. But Mike, we have everything is happening as the top left of this graph. That means you're getting a ton of chances. You're also giving up a ton of chances. And that's where we find our boy Dylan Larkin, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Lucas Raymond. So our for most of the season was our top line. So I only brought up this graph just to sort of illustrate maybe there's a point to how far away we are. And to the point of our next big move being just bringing over more prospects and seeing how that lines up, because clearly there isn't really anybody who snuck into one of these better sections of, being dominant on two ways of getting a ton of chances and limiting some, when a lot of that has to do with, the boys around you. I will remind everybody, because you kind of see how these guys are clustered as lines. I saw somebody say on Twitter the other day that advanced analytics separate the individual from who plays around them. And this is somebody trying to make the argument that Michael Bunting should be the Calder winner. No, they don't. And it's very clear that advanced analytics do not separate you from the line. They are on ice stats, which means you are benefiting from somebody else's play. They are benefiting from your play. It's not an individual shot on net. It is the shots on net while you are on ice. So very, very wrong in that assessment, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at advanced stats and don't take into account who they play with. Just had to throw that out there. I couldn't believe that somebody said that and nobody called him out. But yeah, Michael Bunting getting a lot of help from his all-star Hart candidate line mates, if I may. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Bunting propaganda. No, get out of here.
All right. So clearly, we're not really surprising anybody with the conversation of saying like Edmundson coming over is going to be fun to consume. Will be exciting.
And don't forget Elmer Soderblom.
Right. I think Soderblom actually might be the more fun one to talk about, but him being on the roster doesn't mean we're Stanley Cup contenders. No. So, Mike, are we saying, can we even count that really as the Yzerplan's next big move? Because we're all kind of guaranteeing Edmundson is getting a shot next year. We also, you can't look at Soderblom and say that's our difference maker. I think we could be really excited to see him.
I look at him and say that exact thing every time I fire it up on YouTube.
Shut up. Go away. All right. That's it.
I've never seen a unicorn that can skate. Man, how do they get the skates on those hooves?
He's just.
If you've ever wanted to see a skating unicorn, my God, fire up the Soderblom highlights. Man, is that fun.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, do we really count that as the next big move? I don't know. I'm okay. I'm okay saying yes because it'll be really exciting for Edmundson. You're laughing.
Is it the next big move? Man, I think it's.
Well,
like when you say a big move, like, wow, who saw that coming? Like I do, because there's nobody on this team. So it's just kind of an inevitability at this point.
Wow. Was that Flavor Flav?
Yeah, we'll say it's a little flavor in there. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's gonna happen because we don't really have any defensemen. So yeah.
Mike, we have I'm gonna go to the comments here. We have a few people that want us to explore Martin Necas. We've had this before. We've pulled up this graph before, and this is where I have some pause. Here it comes.
Oh boy, Matt.
Of course, from the Carolina Hurricanes. He's is this 0.9 million? I think we've got listed on here. Look, we spend a lot of time dissecting these charts and stuff that we can steal from people who are able to use Excel very well. They're really good at using Excel. Now, to my own argument that Michael Bunting shouldn't be a Calder candidate because his advanced stats do not separate the player from the line. There's still a lot to like about Martin, but I mean, there isn't too much where I'm looking at this and saying this is our difference maker. So sure, we can explore a contract. We can take a look at him. I'm not going to be like this. This for me, and maybe I am a bozo. This for me, Mike, is just about as exciting as if we picked up Hugh Suter. It's at that same level, and I think a lot of people are going to throw shade. I right now, looking at this is as advanced as we could get. We got a chart here that shows Martin to be a 35% projected WAR percentage. He's only 22. But yeah, I mean, I'm not, I don't know. I'm not getting
let me throw a real curveball
excited about this.
Let me throw a real curveball at you. Yeah. Would you even trade Zadina for him?
Ooh.
Does still feel like the deep cut stuff. I think it still slightly favors Zadina.
That's a good question. I think we could pull up our boy.
I'm happy to be wrong. Ho-ho!
All right, Zadina 36% projected WAR, and you know what? What was he? What?
I think he was 35.
35. Okay, so yeah, you've got more value in Zadina. No, it's that was okay. That was pretty funny. You were right, Mike. How did you know? This is just by the eyeball test. You could tell Zadina
I had
better.
a feeling. I just kind of looked at him.
Look, again, I'm not making the point that you don't go after him. I'm making the point that it would be fine. He'd be a fine gentleman to look at and hand a contract over to. It's just not one that I'm going to label the next big move by the Detroit Red Wings the same way that I would label Hertl or Lindholm. Again, big move to me because that means so much that you're going to invest money in guys that are at that point in their career where they could be declining, but you're going to invest a ton of money because you want to take advantage of whatever they can get you at that point to make sure that you're taking advantage of those Seider years and the Raymond years, and especially the years before you have to start paying them crazy money. So again, that's where my head's at with big move. I guess
that's just that'd be like having two Zadinas on the team, unless you trade Zadina for it.
I mean, the argument too would be you haven't seen them play together. So, and I know you're laughing. I kind of do say that like half tongue in cheek. I just, again, to me,
man, just think of Netches playing on a Verona line, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
Just think of you or me playing on a Verona line.
Woo. What's funny, I think if we pull up Hampus here, this isn't necessarily going to get us all juiced up either. You ready for this one?
Oh, no.
This is our boy that we want on this team. Just grip that table, Mike. I don't know if you're ready for this.
I might fall out of the camera. I don't know. Oh, no! Hampus, what happened?
No, yeah, he had you could see he was above 50%, 1920, 2021, taking quite a dip this year in regards to those advanced stats. And again, you're paying Hampus, I think the argument with who we were just talking about with Netches is that you don't like Hampus is going to be collecting a huge contract. And you're not necessarily making that same argument for Netches. I think maybe if Carolina, and we've talked about this before, if they can't afford to bring him aboard, that's where maybe you could take advantage of that and play the restricted free agent game. Hampus, though, don't have to play that game. He gets to play the UFA game. But yeah, can I do one more while we're doing this? We're doing this live again for everybody on the podcast. I do apologize. We're in Jay Fresh's little player grader. I just want to look at the difference between Nick Leddy and Hampus Lindholm, and keeping in mind that at least with Nick Leddy, and before I hit go on this, Nick Leddy is a trade piece that you kept on your team that you knew you were going to move, or at least try to move. Hampus is your boy. Hampus is the guy you're sticking with. So if you sign him, this isn't the same situation. Okay. All right. So it is an upgrade. It's 18% projected WAR for Nick Leddy, 30% for Hampus. So, right. I think, all right. We weren't that far off.
All right. So we are getting an upgrade. Thank God. Yeah. When we pick up Lindholm.
Again, according to Jay Fresh and all the numbers that he collects from top down hockey, and I guess cap friendly doesn't really count. He's just pulling the cap number. But I mean, look at this. Penalties are an issue, but look at the even strength offense, 53%. Defense is 62%. I mean, he's in the top half of the league for almost everything except for finishing and penalties. He's 2%. So he's kind of on the Fabry boat here. It's not going great, Bob. But the competition he faces, 85%. So that's a boy you can put on your first line, and he's had success getting on the top half of the league from even strength offense and even strength defense. He's just
he's twice as good as Leddy. So
no power play time. That hurts.
You're underwhelmed by Leddy. Prepare to be whelmed by Hampus Lindholm.
Hey, can we shout out too? I think before the season started, we talked about Lindstrom's. First of all, he does play on the penalty kill. He gets a lot of penalty kill minutes for us. He is one of our top penalty killers. So you have penalty kill pairing right here: Hampus Lindholm and Lindstrom. There you go, bingo, bingo.
There you go. We got one part of the team figured out. Done.
God damn it. All right, let's stop sharing this. We have no more notes for today. I guess
What's
let me check
our
the
next
notes
game,
here.
man? Because we need to get off this schneid here and stop playing.
Oh,
good
that's
teams.
right. We do have one
Do we
more
have some
note.
toilet teams coming up? I hope.
Yeah, we have one toilet team coming up.
Oh, thank God.
Mike,
Arizona, come on down.
I hate to do this, but yeah, we're pulling up another Jay Fresh table here. Some people really hate him in the Detroit area, and I think it's just because our advanced stats don't really look great, which is funny, right? Like, you can't blame him for displaying numbers, but yeah, that's how they turn out.
I mean,
But
Mike,
Mike,
match, so
he's got us winning against the Coyotes, or at least we could infer that from these numbers. Big surprise, though, right? We have the advantage top to bottom against the Coyotes, who are fighting for Shane Wright at this point. Deep in the fight for Shane Wright. Hashtag deep in the fight for Shane Wright. Coyotes, of course, going up against Montreal, who's winning some games. But anyways, back to Tuesday's game. Mike, this is the funniest thing in the world, because we've been saying it all season that a 500 team's going to 500.
Yeah.
We'll take this one. It'll look easy. We'll probably get a bunch of points from Seider, and then we'll all be happy again, and we'll forget about this past weekend against two Florida teams. That is kind of how it's worked this year as a Red Wings fan. I'm happy I'll be going to this game. So yeah, I picked this game strategically. I said, cool, we'll play the Coyotes. We'll get a nice, easy win.
Matt, let me just say that as silly an idea as it is to see a horse go ice skating, I got to say the Coyote logo is also pretty ridiculous looking. I don't know what position that little Coyote guy is supposed to be. Is that a goaltender? Because he's kind of protecting his 5-hole, but he's kind of holding the stick like he's on defense, like on the penalty kill.
Is he holding the stick wrong? No, he's got it right. Yeah, I would say he's a skater, not a goaltender there.
All right. He's just protecting his 5-hole. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Matt, I'm going to pick us because it's at home. 500 teams going to 500. We got to get back to 500 here. And I'm pro logo. I think we win the logo battle pretty handily on this one.
Can I say too? I did some research on. We can actually pull this up. But I've been trying to collect some of this data on the Wingdings. Okay, to the point of a 500 teams kind of 500. If I can find this head-to-head results. There's never been a better representation of just that. Looking at us facing the 31 teams in the NHL and where we stop being a 500 team and dip below that. So I'm just going to share that, and then we'll sail off into the sunset, because I know we're going kind of.
I'm kind of excited to see this, but yeah.
But this is kind of funny. It's from Hockey Reference. It shows, again, our record against every team in the NHL. And we go right to team number 17 out of 31 that we have a 500 or better record against.
Wow.
And then it goes down. Mike, a 500 team go to 500. It's never more representative than in this very chart right here. I mean, this isn't to say that we're better than, I guess, across the league, like half the teams in the league. We go just a smidgen past teams that we at least have half the points against for all the games we played them. But it did tickle me a little bit. I thought this was pretty funny that we break it right down in the middle. I think more accurate, right? Maybe if we had the 750, because we do have teams that we gain nothing from, but we have gotten 8 points from the Buffalo Sabres this year. So that's kind of.
I appreciate
nice.
that. Thank you, Buffalo.
Yep.
Appreciate your donation. Very charitable. Direction. Yeah.
But yeah, I was very tickled by this. We've been saying it all season. 500 team going to 500, and absolutely. I mean, the only thing that would have been better is if this was 500 from top to bottom, even against the very best teams in the NHL. Not there yet, but yeah, I think what we get to look forward to heading to the end of the season is 2 more games against Tampa. I think 2 more games against Toronto. We've got another game against Florida.
No.
Yeah, it's.
I liked playing those garbage teams up top. I mean, look at that who's who of all our wins. Buffalo.
Edmonton feels pretty good. Yeah.
Underwhelmed. the Flyers. And man, you look at the teams that have crushed us. I think you could probably guess it immediately. The Torontos, Colorados, the Kings. Oof. Yeah. And then maybe we'll all catch COVID and we could skip that other Panther game. Like they'll just reschedule it for next season or something.
They don't need to play it. We can skip it.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. I think it's time we sailed off in the sunset. This is always when the episode gets a little too depressing because we just start realizing things might get worse. So let's not let things get worse. We just kind of ended it saying 500 teams get a 500. That's what we want to do. Jim he did want us to remember not to take Arizona lightly. I think I don't know. I'm going to say it. I guarantee a win. I'm doing it. I guaranteed 2 losses this weekend, so why can't I guarantee a win against Arizona?
Jim Johnson, I appreciate you as the writer of Stone Cold Steve Austin's entrance music.
That would be John Stun. This is Jim Johnson.
Oh, yeah. I take it back. Sorry, I don't give you any credit for that entrance song.
Sorry. All right. Time to sail off into the sunset. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I hope we had some fun trying to figure out what Steve's next big move was. Sorry, I took a big dump on Martin Netjes and just, wanted to discuss it as you guys requested, and we did, and I do apologize, but please don't let that discourage you from commenting on the next live. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. We did get actually, can I do this real quick?
You got 60 seconds, man.
A new review. Oh my God. We got a new review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you to Hand775, best hockey podcast on YouTube and YouTube show ever. I love catching these guys on YouTube. It's an extremely fun show and they know their stuff.
Yeah.
It works. You just
tricked another one. Woohoo!
Keep begging for Apple Podcast reviews and it works. We got one. So thank you so much, Hand775. Really appreciate it. You guys, please. It helped the numbers. We actually jumped up to the numbers 70 show in North America for hockey podcasts. There are like hundreds of hockey podcasts. So because of this review, we jumped up. So I really appreciate it. I'm telling you, that's how the thing works. How they recommend shows. So
algorithm, baby.
And 775, thank you so much. If you guys have a second, please head on over. Just keep it in the 5 range. That might I imagine if we ever get an awful review, that's really good. So yeah.
Don't even say it, man.
Don't even show up if you're not thinking 5. Don't worry, don't waste your time. But if you are thinking 5, we'd really appreciate it. So head on over. All right. Thanks everybody. We're sailing off. Mike was already signing off. I could tell he wants to go back to his day. I'm holding him up. What else should we talk about?
Yeah, things are going real well for me. I got to throw old oranges under my deck today and then shot a bunch of pledge all over the place because we have skunks again. And allegedly, skunks don't like citrus. So if you saw a madman outside with a pledge can throwing orange grenades, that was me.
Have you called like the city or...
I have not called the city, but last night, after throwing the oranges under the deck, we did not smell skunks.
Nice.
So it worked, and it was not free, but it was the cost of a can of pledge, and three mandarin oranges.
That's fun. I have some coworkers that there's multiple coworkers who are dealing with a bunch of skunks. I wonder what's going on.
Yeah, there's a real skunk problem in this city.
I have a 30-person team. And 2 people are dealing with skunks at my work. And now I know 50% of Red Wings Rant is dealing with skunks.
All right, let's sail off. I got some skunks to go battle.
All right, go get them, Mike. Don't get stinky. Don't get bit either.
I won't get bit.
Don't hurt any skunks.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Bye.
I appreciate it. Bye.
See you guys.